中国音乐乐器。
Okay, Miss Marianne, now we finished watching this awesome music piece from China. So what do you think the differences between Western instruments versus Chinese instruments?
It's very interesting. In the West, we have 4 categories, and children have been studying this idea. The 4 categories are strings. Now, we saw stringed instruments, but there's a difference. Woodwinds, remember the flute that we saw? Any instrument that we use our wind or our air is called a woodwind. In the West, we also have a category called brass, like trumpets, trombones, where you buzz your lips to make the sound. Interesting. We have something in common with percussion. You saw the funny character playing the drum. Any instrument that we strike or hit is called percussion. And I know there's lots of interesting Chinese instruments that are also in the percussion family.
Yes. On the other hand, the Chinese instruments category to 8 different categories, and it's based on what kind of material made of the instruments.
Right, and it seems very interesting to me that the Chinese instruments seem to be made from natural materials that the people found in their environment. I mean, we see even stone, wood, clay.
Yes.
We're going to hear some clay, bamboo. There's lots of bamboo in China, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
Isn't it interesting? They had this material all around them. What can we do with this? Well, so we can make a musical instrument, and they did. Isn't that fascinating? So interesting.
Exactly. I think music is kind of art, and people develop this art from their daily life. And let's go through the 8 different categories. The first one is called jin, which means
It means metal, a metal instrument. Now, here we play a lot of different instruments too. We have instruments that we play called the Metallophone. It's made of metal. It makes a much ringier sound because the vibration keeps ringing. There's something about that metal material that causes the vibration to ring.
the traditional Chinese instruments that made by metal jin category is zhong. When you hear the bell sounds, that is made by this material. The second one is zhu,
which means bamboo. And so cool that they had a lot of bamboo in their environment, and they made instruments out of that material. So you hear that wood sound. That's a woodwind instrument. That was that flute kind of sound.
Exactly.
Made of bamboo.
The third category is ge,
Which is leather, or like a drum head. The head of the drum, the part that we pat or strike, percussion instrument, is usually made of leather. In China, at the beginning, they used that leather from animal hides that they had in their villages.
We also have another category called si,
which is silk. Now, in our stringed instruments, we don't use silk to make that vibrating sound as you draw the bow across or to pluck it. We use metal. Sometimes we use plastic or gut, like we talked about, but that they use silk.
And we also talked about tu,
which means clay. Now, we haven't had a chance to play any clay instruments, but they are also, you blow into them, kind of the same way we blow into a recorder, but they're small, made of the clay, and they would make different kind of drillings or whatever inside the clay to show different pitch that would help make a high or low sound.
Yeah, it's funny, like this instrument is very traditional. We call that xun. It's actually like an egg-shaped flute.
I would love to hear it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, okay. Next one is shi,
which is made of stone. Isn't it interesting that they use stone to make music? It's so cool. And as you look at that picture, you can see there's all different sizes of those pieces of stone, and they're shaped in a certain way. And we know the longer the instrument, the lower the sound. The longer the stone piece, the lower the sound. So that's going to be kind of like a xylophone kind of sound, going high to low.
Yes.
It's an interesting sound.
Yes.
Made of stone.
Next one is mu,
which means wood. And of course, it looked like a tiger. Another percussion instrument using something to strike or hit to make the sound.
Exactly. The last one is Pao.
Which means a gourd. Now, a gourd is like something you grow in the garden. Maybe you've seen pumpkins in gourds. They would eat them, but when it dried out, the outer part, the shell of it, they would use to make instruments. Sometimes they would make rattles, but this one, I don't think, the pao, I don't think it's a rattle. I'm not sure how they make the sound. It looks like they blow into it because I see the finger holes to make high and low pitch.
Do you want to have a listen to it?
I would love to listen to it.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today to learn and talk about Chinese music and traditional instruments.
I loved it so much, Miss Ava. I loved what I learned about these instruments, and I think it's very fascinating that if you look up ancient or traditional Korean instruments, you see many of these same instruments that people took in their villages from their environment. The same way. It seems like we just always had to make music in some way, no matter where we are in the world. It's very interesting.
For sure. Thanks again and hope to see you guys soon. 再见.
Thank you.